A setback to the health care law could spell trouble for President Obama and the Democrats, who spent a lot of political capital on it earlier this year. Joining us now from Washington is Reuters Breakingviews columnist James Pethokoukis. Jim, first of all, were you surprised at all with this ruling? Critics of the law and even some supporters had questioned the legality of forcing people to buy insurance.
Yeah, obviously it's a tremendously live issue that's going to end up, really in the Supreme Court. They're going to decide whether this individual mandate is indeed constitutional. And it's, it could have been worse for the Obama administration. The court could have ruled, this federal court judge could have ruled that this individual mandate was so sort of intrinsic to the law that if it's unconstitutional, the whole law is unconstitutional. He didn't do that. But it is a pretty important component of the law, and should it be struck down, it would really undermine, I think, the entire sort of rationale beneath healthcare reform.
It's interesting, of course, the White House justice were very quick to respond, saying the law is constitutional, and they're confident they're going to prevail ultimately. But listen, if this thing drags on and on, isn't this going to hurt the president more, especially as we start swinging into the next re-election campaign season?
Well, listen, it gives Republicans a lot more incentive to keep pushing to repeal this law, to attack this law, knowing that to some degree they have the court system behind them. And remember, should this thing get struck down, it really forms the centerpiece of this healthcare reform law, because if people aren't required to buy insurance, and insurance companies are still required to give anybody who wants insurance, that's an extremely expensive proposition for the healthcare industry. And then you have to wonder, does any of this continue to make sense? And again, gives the Republicans, I think, an upper hand in their push to repeal it.
Until today, the president's most important accomplishment to date is probably this health care legislation. Other presidents couldn't get it done. If it's ultimately overturned, will the president find himself with no major accomplishment to show for his first 2 years in office?
Well, I think they would also point to the financial reform bill and also to the big stimulus package. But I think, especially to Obama personally, this is a huge issue. Democrats have been trying to do this for 50 years. And I think people then look back and think, gee, why didn't they compromise more with Republicans? They decided to pass this bill with no Republicans. Had the Republicans been involved, they probably wouldn't have this individual mandate. So I think it's going to question his entire strategy, which, as you noted earlier, really gobbled up a lot of time and energy during the first 2 years, and maybe they could have been doing something else, like focusing on jobs.
In terms of the strategy, how do you see that potentially shifting? Obviously, a key vote underway in Congress this week with this tax situation. It seems like President Obama and the Democrats are having trouble catching a break. How does the strategy change from here in light of this setback?
Well, listen, there's no doubt that if the court rules that this individual mandate is unconstitutional, it's a huge setback. But overall, it's been kind of an interesting month for policy. You had a big trade deal with Korea, looks much more likely to happen. You have this tax plan that looks like it's going to get passed. So there's been a lot of momentum, I think, for the president this month up until today.
And ending it once again on this health care story, if this does end up in the Supreme Court, do you think that's likely? How is this going to develop in the next few months legally, and how will the administration's legal strategy change?
I think they're going to pursue the same legal strategy. Hopefully they can just get a better outcome. Obviously, you're going to be dealing with different judges, both at the appeal level and the Supreme Court level. And I think they feel they have a pretty solid legal case. And that they just feel like they caught a bad judge. He was a Bush appointee from 2002, and hopefully we'll have better luck in the future.
James Pethokoukis, thanks for joining us from Washington. For more breaking views, don't forget to type the code BRB. I'm Rhonda Schaffler. This is Reuters.